Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 6 of Glam and Grind with Rach and
Julz.
We are here today to talk to you about navigating sacrifices and rewards for moms and women entrepreneurs, because there's a lot of both of those. So we're going to start today with some strategies. What have you found, Julie, has helped you on your journey when you're going through navigating, prioritizing the well-being of yourself, but also having the busy schedules?
So I think I'll just start with I was a mom with really, really young children, right? I had 4 babies under 6. And there was kind of a running joke that every time I opened a new location, I had another baby. And so that went on for quite a bit in the early stages of my mompreneurship. And so I felt like a lot of it honestly was a blur. I'd say the first 10 years, I really walked around with barely any sleep and in a total fog for many years. So when you talk about what helped you then, for sure, our village, like my mom, Bo's parents, my Nona, she watched the kids every day for us. My mom helped in the business. Bo's parents helped in the business. My grandpa would come and do the lawn and help with the tree pruning and anything he could do outside for the school. My dad and my brother helped with construction and making cubbies. And so honestly, I'd have to say we needed a huge village. I also had, when Xavier turned, I want to say he was about 18 months. I just had Xander a few months before that. And we found an awesome nanny, Lynn, who was with us for 14 years. And so she helped us. Yeah, she has passed away since, but she was definitely a sister to me and definitely a mom to our kids. I mean, we celebrated Mother's Day together. That's how important she was in our family as well. But I would say that without the help of that tribe and that village, of course, well, first of all, Bo, let's put all that other stuff aside. He helped so much with the kids and just everything, running the household. And we'll talk about his role as we move forward in the conversation as well. But as little babies, he was still working too, right? We still had his whole practice. So the village, I think, was the most important piece of the puzzle for us at that time, for sure.
I'm glad you said that about the village, because it's so funny to me whenever we're coming up with these topics, we talk about it before, and then this stuff doesn't come out until we actually start talking. But that is super important to recognize and to point out to people, because I feel the same way about the village. My mother-in-law, and we just talked about my mother and father-in-law the other night, and I was just bawling in tears because I'm so incredibly grateful for them and what they've done for us. My mother-in-law used to, fold all of our laundry, and my father-in-law has done everything from painting to building fences to building furniture to helping us move. And my mother-in-law, she's still a sub at my schools, so all of that is super important to point out. Now my children are adults, so they've grown up in the village, and now they're part of the village, because now they all help also, which is keeping the business going. And it's part of, I would say that piece of it, when we're talking about rewards and sacrifices, I would say that this now is part of the reward because of the sacrifices that we've made.
Yes.
And the children have seen how hard that we've worked and how hard our village has worked, and now they want to be part of it. And that's a part of the reward on our entrepreneurial journey. And they're kind of taking over for grandma and grandpa, right? Because they can't move and do all the things that they used to be able to do, but now they've stepped up and they're helping with that. So I love that you talked about that.
And I'll agree, so there was stages and phases throughout this. So I think we need to look at it in the journey, because in the beginning, everybody's roles were different, right? So like I said, Bo still had his practice. My in-laws were still working full time, although they were helping with, the schools, the kids, whatever they could do to help. My mom, same thing. My mom actually left her position at a company, came to work for us, ran all of the accounting and the AR and the AP and all of that in Canada for years. And then, my dad and brother still had companies, but they were like helping with weekend construction, painting, drywalling, refixing rooms, taking walls down, adding stuff, all the things that you have to do as you go through the journey. And a big piece of the differences, I guess, is like even the kids. As littles, we needed more management of the children. As they got older, they started to like come on weekends with us and flip schools. Like we would move on a Thursday and open on a Monday, and they would have to unpack all the classrooms when we got all the furniture loads. They would help Bo. I have so many pictures of those kids in schools setting up classrooms. They could probably set up classrooms better than me now, honestly, if they had to. But, so the role too of the tribe and what happens around you in different stages of your business is also really important to just recognize and reflect upon. We were talking this morning, Rach and I, just about like where we've come from and enjoying the journey and the steps, that have had to happen to get here. And those times were hard. Like there's no way either one of us would be like, oh, that was super fun and easy. Like I remember after I had Xavier, I was like breastfeeding. He was colic. I was trying to manage the businesses. We were in expansion mode. I was literally crying all the time. I was so frustrated. I was so tired. I was going to work with this newborn who was like crying in my office. And then finally I was like, Nona, just like, you need to take over. And Nona started watching Xavier, and like, the breastfeeding wasn't going well because I was so stressed out, and he was crying because I was so like stressed out. I wasn't making enough milk, like all the things that happen to a mom while you're like, there's no break. Like I had zero maternity. People are like, oh, it's so easy. Like, you guys are so lucky. I want to address right now that nothing was easy and none of it was luck. And I don't want to sound negative at all. I'm just, what you're going to get from us on this podcast is real, raw and real. And so like, if you don't like it, then we're not the jam for you, because we're going to give you all the good, bad, and ugly. And part of the ugly was really all those pieces that no one saw on the outside. Like I would go to work and show up with a smile after crying all the way to work, right? With this baby screaming in the back seat. And then I'd be like, wipe your tears, pull up your panties, get in there and get started, right? So I'd go in smiling with this baby who all of a sudden was super calm and amazing, right? When we got to school, but like a 40-minute drive or whatever, 30 minutes of screaming in the back. And, even that stress, right? As a mom coming in and reframing your day. But just all the things. Like I didn't get a day of maternity. I had the baby on Friday. Before I left the hospital, I did the payroll on my lap. I went Saturday morning. Xavier visited the schools before he went home. So like, those are the things that people don't see, that's not the stuff that's talked about with female entrepreneurs. And I think it is something that is really just different, that we have to, endure, overcome, whatever. Right. So,
I think it goes along with the common invisible loads that we face. My kids I didn't start my schools until Trent was 1. And he was like literally a perfect baby. Like people would come to the preschool to pick up their kids and they'd be like, do you even have a baby? Because he was just like this perfect baby. But what I went through that was really difficult was when my kids were teenagers. And that was when I felt like I was going to die. Our marriage was suffering at that time. Allie was having tons of struggles with drugs and alcohol and running away and dropping out of school. And our Abby was having a lot of struggles as well during that time. And so that's when I felt like I was going to die. And it's all of that stuff that you can't show. And you have to, put your, like you said, put your big girl panties on, and we're here, and I'm here to help you. And you can come cry on my shoulder, even though I'm dying inside.
I'm trying not to cry too.
Right. But that's what we have to do. But I think that's what makes us stronger as well. But it's invisible. It's an invisible sacrifice. That's one of many. There's many, many, many. And I think one of the biggest ones that I've had to overcome And it's been a journey, is the mom guilt. And that's been something that has been huge, coming from being a stay-at-home mom and always wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur or a business owner. So that mom guilt has always been horrible and heavy, but I think I've navigated that and I've learned to get over it. But it's been something that's really weighed on me for a long time, because I can't go to every single volleyball game. I can't go to, all the things that the kids are doing. I try now, because I have a little bit more freedom now in my life to put boundaries around football games or, things like that. But when I was in the journey, like you said, Julie, there was times where I couldn't be at all of those things. I remember one time I missed one of my kids' like Thanksgiving plays, and it just like broke my heart. And now to this day, when I see the videos of it, because I wasn't there, it just makes me like, breaks me down, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I wasn't there. But then when I talk to the kids about it, they're like, no, we know, we get it. We are with you. We're part of your village. So I think that's one of the hard things that people don't really talk about very much. It's that mom guilt that we had.
Yeah. And so I'm completely opposite than you in this area. And we talked about this before, but I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I never had the urge to be a stay-at-home mom. I am a much better mom working outside the home. And I know that about me. And so being home actually for me just did not make me a great mom. I was super stressed out all the time, frustrated. I'm a super OCD, crazy maniacal, about my house. And when you're home, you just can't be like that. Lots of things. Not that I've ever been home for a long time, but when I retired the first time, that's what I'm talking about. That small, quick journey of being at home that Bo was like, please get a job. Like, you're driving us all crazy. And so I am not a stay-at-home mom by heart. I applaud and appreciate that job and that workload, because there is nothing like this in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could not do it. So let's just put it that way. I would rather work at 10 businesses than be a stay-at-home mom. That was so hard for me. And so I really appreciate moms that can do that, because that's a whole other journey and a whole other load that people don't place value on. And it's so valuable, like when people see from the outside, when they think about a stay-at-home mom, they really need to see the amount of value that mom is I can't even explain, because I couldn't do it. So I just appreciate that load and that position so much. But what I was going to say is, so I didn't have the mom guilt as much as maybe you, in terms of like missing the games. I was always the one missing everything, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had just taken that role of like, I'm going to be the person that has to miss them. Bo, though, is going to be the person that's at everything. And so talking about how his role has evolved too from the beginning. So once he decided to come in full time with the business and, close his practice, he really became that full time role model for the kids and that full time person at home and the go-to and the contact point and all the things that I couldn't be. Right. And so I think that the guilt wasn't there because they honestly had the better parent home with them. Like, to be honest, he is so great with the kids. He is like, if anyone could have a dad like him, like I would be like, yes, do it. He is just so involved with the kids. He goes to all the games. I mean, he would schlep them all over the universe to games, be gone in Minnesota for the whole week, all the things, right? So I think that's why I didn't experience the guilt from that point of view. It just made me feel better. Now, whether or not that was realistic, when they started getting older, though, and I will tell you now, in the past, let's call it 3 years or so, I will say that I don't regret that what I had to do, because we had to do what we had to do, and that was what worked for us as a family. But I will say that now that they're 18 and gone, I feel like, wow, that time is really short. That time period is really short. And so now they don't need you. They don't want you at their stuff. Like, you know what I mean? It's different. And so
it's different though for boys and girls.
Way. Yes. They need you in a different way. And I feel like we still touch base every day. My kids, every night, they'll text us good night. I love you, whether we answer or not. Sometimes it's 2 a.m. I'm like, guys, I'm already asleep. But they'll always text us. They're gone away at school. And there's always that so I know, even though I wasn't there, that I was there, So I wasn't replaced by the nanny. I wasn't replaced by what was happening. They just see me in a different light. And what solidified that last year was, Zoe came home with a project and it said, do a project on someone you look up to most in your life. And I could get emotional really about it right now because I was like, wow, even though, I was away or gone, then she, that was her first go-to. So anyways, so I feel like different journeys, but at the end of the game, as long as you're there in whatever way you need to be, So
mine has also changed. So now looking back, I'm like, no, there's no way in hell that I could be a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And I can't even believe that I did it. I homeschooled and
you were crazy. Rock solid girl. I can't. I'm just like, wow, when I hear your story.
Yeah. But now looking back, I'm like, there's no way that I could have done it. And I think I'm kind of the opposite of you in the journey that now that my kids are older, 2 of my girls, they're adults and my son's almost an adult. Now I feel like, and it's different, I think, between boys and girls, but we went through this horrible time where they didn't come to me. They did kind of make me feel guilty. They did, do this whatever thing when they were in high school. But now it's like I am their go-to person. They constantly call me, text me, FaceTime me, whatever. And I'm very close to them now. And so I think that's when it comes full circle. And like you said, when they say this, my mom is my person that I look up to, and she is my mentor and my, whatever. Zach did the same thing. He wrote a paper and it just makes you like, oh my gosh, it's working. It's happening, all the sacrifices that we did.
Yes, I 100% agree. Even with the fact now, when they have adult problems, I get the call, so I'll get the FaceTime, hey mom, I went to this career fair yesterday, or I'm thinking about owning this business, or I want to open this, or, hey, I want to push through this. And, I spoke with dad, but I really, I want to know what you're thinking about this. Or they'll just, most often I feel like they'll come to me or they'll FaceTime me about certain things in their life. It's really crazy, and then the day-to-day chat is still more Bo, I
know, and Eric always kind of feels bad about it because he's like, whenever I need something, they come to me. I need new tires, or I needed to look, whatever. They go to Eric because he has been, honestly, the bigger caregiver in their life as they've been older. And he is the one that goes to all the games. He is the one that takes Trent to school. I mean,
same every morning. Bo drives those kids to school. He is the day-to-day go-to, 100%. And I think he will be until we're both dead, literally, or at least till he is. You know what I mean? He's definitely the person. Yeah. But then they come to me. We still chat every day. They're it's hard to explain. We're both now much more prominent in their lives for different reasons. But I feel like the connection from him being home is definitely a little bit different. It's coming around now a little differently, but I feel like we went through the same thing, Rachel, of years of they wouldn't really, not that they resented me for not being home, but I feel like they definitely were closer with him for a lot, a big chunk of time. Even now, I still think that the bond that he created, with them is the go-to parent for the day-to-day. In certain things. And then I'm the other side. So I get it. It's hard to explain it because I don't want you to feel they don't come to me. Right. But it's different. I think that, it's just different. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, going back to sacrifices, I think this is a sacrifice that we have had to navigate that most people don't, because it is that it's that role shift, right? And Eric has had to sacrifice as well. Like, he didn't ever see himself as Mr. Mom.
Mhm.
So it's been more of a I wouldn't say sacrifice, but it's just different. It's just a shift.
It's hard to talk about because both roles are so important. And what I think we need to go back to, Rachel, is that we were both building our careers vertically. We talked about this before. And instead of diverging, we were converging. And finally, when we reached the convergent point, roles had to be redefined for us to create the end game we needed, right? And so because Bo wasn't going to go in and run 10 schools and manage 400 staff and all the things that he had to do, he was definitely a huge part of it, but he was the back end, right? He was all the systems and processes and back end, while I was like the front facing, dealing with the day-to-day issues. So he had the flexibility to take the kids to school, do all the things that we needed at home. Bo does almost all the laundry. Like, honestly, like, he has picked up roles that he would have never seen in his life doing. Like, and if his mom's listening to this, like, I don't think he did a piece of laundry until he moved out, right? So I feel like he has definitely had to shift his role as well. So whether it's a sacrifice or not, I feel like both of us had to make concessions to who we thought we would need to be in a marriage and who we thought we were in our marriage to who we became in the marriage. And now roles are going to shift again as our children, as our children move out and their roles change in our family, our roles will have to readjust again. So I feel like when we talk about, and I don't know if I told you, but my book comes out on Mother's Day. And so it's shameless plug for my book, but in part of it, we explain the whole thing about the invisible load of motherhood and how our roles had to be redefined and reshaped. And so I agree with you 100% that we've had to, and it's not that other people haven't had to do it, but I think generally entrepreneur families, the kids are raised differently because we just have different expectations for them early on. I feel like both Bo and I had expectations for ourselves and our children in those roles that we required them to help us do what that family end goal would be. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And I mean, I think part of that is defying societal norms, right? So as a high level woman entrepreneur, you're not normal. So when we're navigating this process, it's different than a man in this position than a woman would be. You know, like Taylor Swift says, if I were a man, it would be easier. Like, it's true. I mean, I don't want to be like all feminist and whatever, but it is true. There are things that's part of the sacrifices too, that we've had to, I don't know if it's really sacrifice or navigate is a better word when it comes along with that. Like, how do we approach things? I've had times, and I think I've talked about this on here, where we've gone to like a CPA even back in the day when we were building our business, and the CPA kept looking at Eric and asking Eric questions. And Eric finally had to say, this isn't my business. I don't know anything about it. So you're talking to the wrong person. But it's not only that, but like getting contracts and getting funding and all of those different things. When you're, as a woman, you have to approach it differently than a man. And that's been some of the things that we've had to navigate that's different. And at the end, I feel like it's a reward. It flips to a reward. So I think a lot of these sacrifices do become rewards, but it's just a different and a different thing to navigate as a woman. So what has been your experience with that?
So I would agree with some of those things. I feel like, again, we have to stay away from balance because it's an expectation that is unreasonable for everyone in this world. Moms, working moms, stay-at-home moms, dads, working dads, stay-at-home dads, entrepreneurs, not. The expectation of balance and, work-life balance, that whole terminology that came up via COVID, I feel like was super unreasonable. What I like to think of life and the journey in is more of a harmonious state. What can I be okay with at the time that it needs to be done? And so, like, for example, can you have balance with being super 10 plus in your business and then 10 plus as a mom? No.
No.
Can you have harmony where some of those things have to go up and down? Yes. Like I feel like I can live more harmoniously if I'm less expectational about being a 10 in all areas when something's happening. Like when you're growing your business, you cannot be a 10 at home. I don't care who says that that's possible. That's BS. Like that doesn't happen. That's not real. And you can come to a 30-year business owner that did the grind for 30 years. Not once has my life been in balance. So has it been harmonious? Have I worked around? Have I had workarounds? Yes. Have I figured out how not to be totally insane all the time? Maybe. That'd be questionable. But what my point was is that the load that you have is never in balance. I think trying to find balance is really unreasonable. And as women, like you had a long conversation about women versus men. So I don't want to like reiterate all of that, but I do feel like I went through similar things for sure. Like when we built our first school ground up, right? It was like, I did all the construction meetings and all the things, and I made all the decisions. And, Bo was working. He is a doctor with 200 plus patients in a huge practice. Like that's not what he's doing in his part-time job, So, and I ran the schools and I made the decisions, and Bo trusted I was making the right decisions. And so that's another thing too. You have to have your village has to trust you. And some of your village can be detrimental to you. And so it's really important also to delineate the noise around you and really focus on what makes you feel good and what makes you, what ability you have to control what you can. And I did get a lot of stuff like outside noise. You're never home for your kids. You're, all those, like the pieces.
You're always gone.
You're always, yes, you're always gone. You're never home for the kids. You're always working. When is enough enough? Like that noise, I'm sure everyone listening on here today, more than the balance and harmony in your life, the ability to cut through that noise, because there are societal norms and expectations about how a mom and a female is supposed to act or was supposed to act. I feel like it's changing today, and we'll talk a little bit about how I feel like that's changing after. But I feel like when I started, like, let's remember this was 20 years ago, right? So like we've had a huge shift in 20 years from when I had started our business in the basement of the church, what the societal norm and expectation was as a wife, right? It was a different expectation as a mom, what was expected of me. And, I have grandparents who are 94 years old right now, or 93. So we're talking about a century of difference in belief of like what you were supposed to be, doing and being, to what I was doing and being was very incongruent to the expectation. Right. So, and they were always super proud of me. My grandparents were actually great. And so was my family, but the outside noise didn't stop like that. What are you doing? When is enough enough? Like, why are you working so hard? What are you trying to prove? What are you doing? You're leaving your kids. And even other moms, to be honest, like friends that I had to get rid of because they would make me feel so guilty about me not even that they made me feel guilty. I just didn't feel like I fit in with them because the norm for them wasn't my norm. Yeah. So even going through that was challenging.
Like I said, I started as a stay-at-home mom. So my entire village was stay-at-home moms or part-time working moms. So I went through that big time, but also, my outside family, not my inner family, but like, outside family was all very about being either a stay-at-home mom or you only work part-time or, all of those things. And I think the thing that really I hear still to this day is when is enough enough? And so having that, being able,
P.S. It's never going to be enough. So let's just say it live right now. we're going to die and it's never going to be enough. And
Never
that's
gonna be
okay.
enough.
And that's
Yes.
okay. Like, let's just call it what it is. It's okay to not have it be enough. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about that on another episode, but it's okay. And no one has to agree with what your enough is.
Right. Yeah.
When you get
Exactly.
to 50 girls, you don't care anymore. You're like, it is mine, not enough. So, but yes, Rachel, you're right. I don't think that's ever going to end. That question, that concern, you know.
But
And
it's part of a sacrifice is being able to cut out the noise and being able to say, this is who I am. It's okay if it's not enough. It's okay if I still have drive and ambition and fire and passion in me that I want to keep going. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a journey that we've had to get to that point where we can say, it's okay to not be enough. And it's okay to want to keep going. And it's okay that this passion is still burning in me. So for me, I want to keep going. And you're right. We have to say, it's okay. If you're not, if you don't feel this way, that's okay. This is how I feel. But yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say, Rachel, just to add to that, I do feel like, I'm trying to say this so that it doesn't come out super the wrong way. I feel like the position we're in today with my family, our finances, our lifestyle, the opportunities, everything that we have been afforded through hard work, through the dedication, consistency, keeping our eye on the prize, looking at the end game, working hard together, Bo and I feel like no matter what people say or, whatever happened in those years that, I coulda, shoulda, woulda stuff, I am in a really great position. Our family's in a great position. Knock on wood, we have health and wealth and happiness. And so at the end of the day, I don't feel like any of it was detrimental to my children. If anything, I feel like my children were raised in a very independent way where they know the sacrifice of hard work. They see the value of what we've done and they celebrate the victories with us. And so, yes, I may have not been there the first 10 years of their life, probably at all or very little. Of course I was there, but not according to societal standards. I was definitely the parent that was, working and away from them every day. But the returns of that today and what I see in my children's strength, resilience, perseverance, independence, my 2 adult children for sure. My 2 youngers are actually probably even more so because they were in it like when it was the hardest, right? When we were growing. And the littles, I mean, all 4 of them are really good humans. And so for me, my job as a mom, right? And what that definition of being a mom to them looked like, it has come to fruition. And I see all of the fruits of that labor now. And that's what matters to me and Bo. Yeah. That's what we care about. I don't care what anybody else thinks about what I did or didn't do. I like, too bad for you. This is how it worked for our family, right? And that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, and to give moms that are listening to us and other mompreneurs that maybe are on a different part of the journey than we are, it's push through. It's worth it because Julie and I we've had different journeys, but we both have 4 kids. We both, love our kids to death and want the world for them. And we've seen that our sacrifices and our hard work and what we've done in this journey we've seen the other side. And it's worth it. It's worth all the pain and the sacrifice and the pressure that we've had to endure to get to this other side. And so,
yeah. And let's face it, at the end of the day, Rachel, like our journeys, even though they were different, are very similar. So a lot of folks that are listening to us today, I feel like they may have had your journey, my journey, whatever way it was flipped, turned upside down, replicated. I feel like all the feelings, all the things that occurred in the journey are going to be really symbiotic with a lot of folks on here, right? I mean, we all had, I think the majority of us anyways, will have had similar stories of pain through growth, right? As moms.
Yeah. So. Okay. So leading into that, now let's talk about some risk. What has been some of the risks that we've had to endure, still having to endure as being a mompreneur and female entrepreneur?
Well, so many. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but like every day is a risk for us. Every single time you wake up in the morning is a risk. When you own a business, every single day you own a business, you have a liability and you have risk. So you don't only have risk and liability from a monetary standpoint, you have risk and liability for employees, for your customers, your clients, your families, whoever is coming to you for your business. We were in childcare, both of us. The liability is 1000%. You can ask our insurance provider, Sam, or whoever you're using. She will tell you. And right now, you can't even get insurance, for childcare operations because it is so challenging. So when you are a business owner, the risk that you take on, the risk that you assume is so great that I was up numerous nights. Worrying about the risk, worrying about paying my families, like my staff, my team, through COVID, the liability of $100,000 payroll when the city or state shuts you down, just all the pieces that people, again, don't see, right? That liability, the risk of our entire family losing everything or anything at any moment of this journey. And so, and every time you grow, right, there's a new liability and a new risk and a new addition of stress and a new addition of like your exposure to the liability, and so our family was on the line 24/7.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's what I would say. I mean, and I almost get emotional about this piece of it because, like I said, we went through this journey of when my kids were teenagers, my girls especially, and there was things that Allie was doing that was like, could have, and I feel like I use Sarah Palin as an example. She was just this face on everybody's, the media, and anything any one of her children did, they would attack her for and attack what she was trying to do and all of the good things. So not only the financial liability, but like you said, your family's on the line every single day. And anything that anybody says or does could completely ruin everything that you've worked for. And that liability is heavy. I will say that the risk and the liability of being a female entrepreneur, especially at this level where you have so many people counting on you every single day, it's heavy. And that's a huge sacrifice, but it's something that we have to keep putting our eye on the prize. We weigh the risk and the reward every time we have an acquisition, every time we purchase a new piece of real estate for the business, anytime we're in kind of any type of growth. It's what is the risk and what is the liability? And like Julie said, we have people in our lives like Sam, the insurance people that say, is this worth it? Can you do this? All of those types of things. And we have to be careful. We have to have our bench so that we know who to consult. Julie's my phone a friend person that I'm always like, help, what do I do in this situation? So having those people that help you navigate those risks and help you see through the noise, like you said, even seeing through the noise on this, whenever things might pop up, you might have a former past employee that's disgruntled or whatever, and they're causing a big ruckus and harm, and it could ruin you. So then you have to think, what do I do in this situation? How do I outweigh all of these hard situations so that I get to the next side, get to the other side? So the risk is a huge piece that people don't see. It's that piece, like we talked about before, that's just, it's that hidden, it's that we have to put our big girl panties on and just fight through it, even though we've been up all night worrying about the risk and worrying about how this could affect us tomorrow. And sometimes it's immediate, some of the risk that we face.
Yeah, I would 1000% agree, Rachel. And as you're talking, like all that anxiety comes back. Like, honestly, I'm like, oh my gosh, like just the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the sweats, like literally, I remember being like so worried in some parts of our journey about money and staying strong and making sure that like I wasn't going to screw anything up for our family, and just making sure that we had like the backbone to like withhold or go get through. I don't even know the word, but like, because it makes me like literally emotional. I remember, a staff member, a team member, in Canada that went and opened a school and solicited all our parents, and just so many things that happened to us that we had to like get through. And although it never worked out on their end, because I really truly feel like karma is my boyfriend.
Karma.
It is definitely like the way. So there's two things in life. We believe in generosity breeds abundance. And so we continually are giving, and you'll hear this on numerous podcasts because it is literally the way that we live. Integrity is like, there is non-negotiables about integrity. Yep. And I feel like we have been blessed because we continue to bless, and something in this universe is giving us good karma because we're constantly putting good karma out there. And so if you're a bad person, you're going to get it. You know, you will eventually get that back. And if you're a good person and you put out good vibes and try to continually help people and just be the best human you can be, we all make mistakes, but you know, if we can be the best that we can be and get better every day, I don't know where I'm going with this, but like my point was that definitely I feel like it's cyclical, right? And so, but the risk is huge. And yeah, I get emotional thinking about all the times that my family and our entire life was on the line, from either things I've done or things that happened for us, not to us, but for us. And as we grew, right? Again, that financial risk, the financial responsibility, all the people that were under me, like not under me, sorry, but working with me, and our team that was bringing us up, right? We were responsible though for everybody that was working for us from a financial point of view. And so that's also a lot of stress and pressure, you know, because you're affecting their families and their children and everything that's happening. So yeah, I just felt like there's constant responsibility and constant risk. And with risk comes responsibility, right? And so oftentimes as female entrepreneurs too, if we put our families at risks and something happens, it's not as forgiven. I feel like that is also something society has gotten better with, but I feel like that was always on my mind of like, if something happens, you know, this is all my fault kind of thing, right? So at the back, very small piece at the back of my mind, but it was always there. Like, Julie,
always there.
You can't screw this up. Like, you need to be 120% on with this because there's no room for error, right? And so just even that mental stress and pressure, and like, you know, talking about mental health and moms and mompreneurs, and understanding that like 20 years ago, there was no outlet for me to say, oh, Rachel, I'm feeling like really stressed out about this. Like, I need you. It was like me going downstairs, crying, figuring out, and coming back up like nothing happened. I mean, like, I didn't want to put that stress on my husband, who's running a 200 patient clinic, or on my parents who were already super worried about our financial situation as we grew these schools, or on our family. And like, I didn't want to have anyone think that I couldn't do it. Right. And so you hold a lot in, and that pressure is a whole other thing too. And I mean, I'm sure that men have that pressure as well as entrepreneurs. And so I'm not saying it's specific to us, but it was significant to me for sure.
I think it's a little bit different, men versus women, because of the emotional piece that we have that's a little bit different than men, and that we want our people to, not that men don't want people to succeed, but it's just that mother nature deep down inside, that we want our people to be happy. We want them to, you know, succeed in our team, and especially in our field where where we have children. We want everybody to be good. And so that is a little bit more of pressure, I feel like. And it like you said, it's in the back of my mind. It never goes away. And a lot of people that I coach, you know, it's unbelievable pressure. And I will say that I can never really breathe completely, like that doesn't ever happen. That's a female entrepreneur. It just does not happen until, I mean, maybe someday, I don't know, Julie, does it happen someday? But not in the phase of life that I'm in right now. It's just because it's constant.
Yeah, I think it changes, Rachel. So again, like, this journey is effervescent in the sense, right? It's always like, what's coming up next? What's the next bubbling issue, thing, concern, whatever, right? So as you move on, right, the journey. So even after selling, of course, the financial piece lessens because you're in a different state with risk financially, although there's always financial risk, even with our investments, with everything, right? But so I don't think it ever does go away. And I think because of who we are, we never stop creating new businesses. We never stop creating new issues. You know, new possibilities, new creations bring new issues, bring new disadvantages, bring new advantages. So I think, again, this journey is ever changing. I feel like it's not a journey of static nature. So to say, does it ever end? I mean, I think it will only end if we end, and we're probably not going to end until the end. So that was a lot of ends, but I feel like, like it's absolutely a journey of like constant change and pivoting and readjusting. So does it ever go away? No, I think it takes precedence in different situations, like, and in different instances, like sometimes the risk is financial, right? Sometimes the risk is, the risk, there's always certain risks, but sometimes it's heavier financially or heavier time-wise, right? Commitment. So I have a client right now, right? She's in the mode of expansion, and she's been fairly static in terms of like the work she's had to put in for her company. So now, you know, deciding whether or not that next 2, 4, 6 businesses that she'd like to add on, what will be the return on life? What's the exchange, right? So it's heavier from a risk perspective because there's growth, but heavier on her time, right? So like that those other things also come into play. I don't think it's just about financial anymore, or the liability, even because even when you don't have any employees, there's some other liability, right? Like, so I think it just takes a different precedence depending on where you are in your life. But I think there's always, the responsibility is always going to be there as long as you continue to grow and create whatever it is we're doing, right? So even after you're done your business, like I had downtime and then recreated another business, then downtime and so I'm a serial mess, right? Serial entrepreneurial disaster, which I think most of us are. So.
Yeah. Okay. We've talked a lot about navigating the sacrifices and the risks. Now, what are some of the rewards of being a female mompreneur, female entrepreneur that you've experienced?
Well, uncommon freedom. And I talk about it in my book. I mean, first and foremost, uncommon freedom. Money's great. You know, money is good to have. And when people say money's the root of all evil, they've never had any money. So I'll just tell you that right now. Money affords you so much opportunity. It affords you the uncommon freedoms that we've wanted our entire life. The ability to travel the world. My 12-year-old has been to every continent in this world. The ability to make choices not based on finances. The ability to go to the grocery store and not look at my bill. The ability to go to any, I don't know, weekend sprint, like, hey, girls, let's go away for the weekend. We've done that. You know, let's go to Atlanta on Sunday. Okay. Hey, you want to go to the Super Bowl? The experiences, right? So yes, the struggle is real. The work is unbelievable. I can't even, like, when people are like, well, how hard is it? I'm like, you can't even explain it. I can't explain what we had to go through to get to here. Except to live it. Like, I still get emotional. Like, I remember my water broke, Rachel, and I was like, oh, well, we can't go. I need to wait till these kids get picked up. Like, like, you're crazy. Like, we're going. And he was like freaking out, right? And, you know, just the uncommon freedom that it's afforded us, the legacy wealth for being the first multimillionaire in our family, creating the ability for our children to continue that legacy, to teach them, to be able to be here and available now for whatever they need, the flexibility. And then I would say the last piece of it is just for me personally, the personal mastery, like the mastery of business and my personal mastery. I'm a constant work in progress, and the ability to have the freedom, the money, the finances to educate myself continually, to continue to learn, to be with people that are better than me, that are smarter than me, to afford to put myself in rooms that I can learn the next best thing. And all of that equals impact for me. So the impact I'm able to now give is for me, all of that I just talked about, the final reward in life is self-actualization, right? And giving back. I mean, if you look at Maslow, that's where I'm at. I'm at that 50th year mark where I'm like, I want to be able to take everything I've been afforded to do with the money we've had, with the experiences we've had, and give it back to others and help other people, even if they can't afford to do the coaching programs that I've done. I bring back the information, and I am everyone will tell you, a super sharer. I give everything, almost too much, to a detriment. But I really want folks to be able to have impact through us, right? Through what we've been able to do. So I would say those are all my rewards, and the rewards of just being able to just live in some type of a peace that exists through all of that, and have return on life. Our return on life is something we weigh every day, right? So how about you?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I would say same. When you say uncommon freedom, I mean, that was my word a couple of years ago. Freedom was my word of the year a few years ago.
I just added uncommon, but mine was freedom, but I added uncommon. Even in my book, it's in my title, because most people can't achieve that level of freedom, right? And so it is uncommon to the normal societal vibe, right? And so...
And I love that. And when I chose that word for me a few years ago, and I don't even remember what year it was, but I had zero freedom in my life at that point, because I mean, I've been on growth mode almost my entire career, but so financially we're always growing to the next level, which means that we don't have, we're using our cash to build, to grow. It also means that I don't have time freedom at this time of my life. Zero time freedom. I mean, working up early till working late, midnight, whatever, burning both ends. I didn't have that freedom. We didn't have the freedom to be able to travel at that time, because we were always working, so we could never get away. And we didn't have the people in place that we needed to. So it makes me a little bit emotional when you say that's a reward, because we're finally getting to that level.
No, but it's true. Like it's a huge part of like why we started this journey, right? Was to give our kids what we didn't have. And I mean, I'll probably get emotional on this episode as well, but like, and this is why female entrepreneurs, this is why we have a different vibe. But so like, I grew up with a single mom who worked, 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. I always saw my life I just wanted different, right? And it wasn't that I don't respect my mom. I would not be here if it wasn't for my mom working those 3 jobs. She was the reason why I have the business ethics I do, the work ethic, the hard press, just want to do better. And for her, 3 jobs made us have food on the table and all the things that there was a non-negotiable for her, right? So for me though, what I saw was I need to do better. I want to do better. I want to move out of this area. I want to have what other people have, right? And so circumstance had my mom working 3 jobs, but she was not going to lay down and take that as I'm going to stay at this level. She went to Dale Carnegie courses. She constantly tried to better herself. And so even though she was restricted by the financial, portion in her life, the ability for her to move forward was so great. And that I do have inside me. I just wrote a post today about both my parents having such an effect on where I'm going. But why I was saying this, Rachel, is because I see that in you, right? I see how you're able to think about that end game, manifest what that freedom is going to look like. And so that's what pushes you, I think, to get through every day, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember that like vividly, like it was the same for me. Like I knew that I was doing this for a greater purpose. And so when you ask about the reward, it's the greater purpose reward, right? Like,
yeah. And I've moved on to that next level too. Like you said, self-actualization. I was actually writing my manifestation list last night, and a big part of it was I want to give back, and how can I make an impact, and how can I share with others. And also a big piece of the reward for me is the fact that I've been able to empower other women to get to their magical futures, whether it's women that work within our company or other owners and entrepreneurs and leaders that I coach. But that is huge for me. And I've been able to use my journey and what I've learned. And also my mom was also a very hard worker, really strong work ethic as well. And so using all of that to help other women, that's been a huge reward. And being able for my children to watch that happen. And I can't wait to see what they do with their lives as a result of that. So that's the reward for me, a huge.
No, I'm resonating with so much that you're saying. Like I'm just vibing with the whole thing, you know. And for me too, it's being an inspiration was really important. Like I came out of the hood. I was the only one that went to university, I believe, in my hood area. And I wasn't pregnant, you know, at 16, like a lot of my other friends were, or, you know, I wasn't in situations that impeded me from being able to continue to do, you know, different things in our life. And so, and I'm not saying that that was bad or good. It was just, you know, for me, a really big piece of it was being able to inspire these people that came from where we came from, that there is more and you can do whatever you want to do if you put your mind to it. And that nothing, hood, people, noise, none of that should stop the ability or your mindset or framework about where you can take yourself. And I think that really the reward for me is, even if I can inspire one person, Rachel, to like understand that this is possible for them. Like I am a poster child for what should not have happened. You know what I mean? Like I'm a poster child for the, you know, when they pick out the kid who will be least likely to succeed,
same.
Probably me, right? And so I was always in trouble for talking in the classroom, you know, went to the principal's office all the time. I didn't love school because I couldn't like sit down and like listen and behave, you know, and be like the sheep that they want you to be in school and listen and sit and be good. Like I just wasn't that type. And so from a societal norm perspective as well, I was, probably you too, we're not the girls that were going to be running multi-million dollar empires. Let's just put it that way. So I just want this episode really, and what we're doing here and with Glam and Grind and with everything, just to be an inspiration to women who feel like, you know, their circumstance has them boxed in, or their circumstance will dictate where they're able to go. I feel like young women too, please like listen to this, give it to your daughters, give it to whoever, because they have to know that this is possible. And today, more than ever, there are so many more things that they have available to them that we did not, like loans, right? Like opportunities for capital, like women-based entrepreneurship programs, women mentors, like all the things that we weren't able to tap into 20 years. Everything, right? Like just all of the information digitally and beyond that's accessible to young women today, to entrepreneurs, womenpreneurs, mompreneurs, entrepreneurs in general, right? I mean, I just think that the sacrifices and the just all the things we've done to lead up to this point, I'm hoping we're, by this episode and just the way we live our lives, I hope it's a continual inspiration to people to just see that like, hey, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and things are possible. And yes, it sucks and it's super hard. And no one should ever tell you that entrepreneurship is easy. If they do, they've not done it.
They're lying.
They're lying. Yes. And, or if they were an overnight success, as I always say, then ask the day shift. They're probably the ones that are saying it, because the night shift was working hard. So no one is an overnight success. You know, you have to keep strong. You have to keep persistent. You have to keep motivating yourself. You're your best motivator, guys. Like, everyone around you is not going to be motivating you. You have to find it in your heart and in your mind to keep going, because some days are going to suck really bad and hard. And yeah, if I was mentoring anyone, that's what I would say. First and foremost, have that belief in yourself and manifest and see that end game, you know, for yourselves and your family or your spouse or whoever you're doing this for. That would be my, I guess that I agree with you, Rachel, that reward is something that keeps us going. Right. And
I was also, you know, I don't want to say nothing, but I was a girl from the trailer park. I was a girl that didn't get good grades. I barely passed high school. You know, we've talked about that before, but I was definitely not the most likely to succeed as far as my schooling and younger days were. And I think that's part of the reason why it drives me to that reward, is because not only for myself, but for my children, for my legacy, for my children's children. I don't want them to have to go back to that. So I want to set them up for success, but not only financially, but also to teach them the road and the path to success, so that they don't have to go back to where, you know, I came from. And so I think that's, and it's hard to look back and be like, wow, this is the reward. We are getting to that level where, or not that level, but that next phase in life where we can look back and say, we've done it. We've gone through the hard part. We've never done it. We've never made it, but we've made it to a different level. So,
well, and I think we have made it. I think we've made it every single time that there's been a new acquisition, a new level of entrepreneurship, a new relationship, like whatever we have done through those years of business, every single rung on that ladder has to be celebrated and appreciated. One thing, I know we're kind of going a little bit over, but one thing I feel like sometimes we don't focus enough on is the journey. And we talked about not so much, yes, we need to focus on the end game for the total result of the situation or the performa, right? But every day celebrating those wins of, like, you know, you're one step closer to that game, and also delineating the noise around you so that you're focused on, is this thing that I'm doing right now, is this helping me get closer to that goal? And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we get very distracted. The road is not this way. Like, it is like all over, up and down, side to side by the time we get to what we're thinking. And so to really stay focused on, yes, everything that you do today is a part of that final hurrah, that final reward. And if it's something that you're doing that's not bringing you closer to that goal, just ditch it. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're creating your own distractions, you know? So anyways, that'll be another episode. But for today, we have 3 things to leave you with, Rachel: health, wealth, and happiness. So Rachel, go ahead and start.
Well, the health is yours.
Oh, is it? Okay. So the health one is, oh yes, go get your yearly checkups, ladies. Make sure you stay on top of your health. You know, preventative checkups can help with a lot of things. I'm currently going through a little something right now with that. And so very, very lucky that I did an annual checkup, and, you know, we're just making sure that all things are okay. But make sure as you get through life that you're doing those annual checkups and stay up on what you need to be healthy. Take your vitamins, you know, just nurture yourself properly, exercise properly, but definitely go for those preventative checkups that y'all hate to go to.
Okay. And then wealth is also you, Julie.
Oh, okay, great. Well, we talked about it, I think, a lot, that it's not an overnight success, right? We have a 30-year journey here. You have a 20-year journey. I mean, and you're not done, and I'm not done. And I feel like it's just going to be what it is, but just have sacrifice, discipline, consistency, perseverance. And remember that 99% of the people won't do what you'll do. And so those 1% of the people that are going to do it are the ones that are going to reap all the rewards we talked about today. So keep your eye on the right prize, focus on the 80% that's giving you the money, that's giving you the reward, that's your end game. Don't focus on the noise. Cut out what you don't need to do. If it's not helping you get to your goal, cut it out. Whether that's people, things, additional business stuff, journeys, focus on your goal. And then when you have your goal completed, you can add other things, but you need to have your mind has to be in the right place to get that reward. So just, that's all I would say about that.
And happiness is keeping your eye on the prize. Today, Julie posted a little meme on her social media, and it really is something that I needed to hear because, like I said, I'm right smack dab in the middle of growth mode. And she said, keeping your eye on the prize, it might take you 6 months, it might take you 2 years, it might take you 5 years, but you have to stay focused, stay disciplined, and stay consistent, and you will get to where you want to be. And I found a sweatshirt that I bought that said, be grateful for where you've come from while you work for where you want to be. And it's the same mindset of just keep going, stay consistent, and be grateful along the way. And stay on the journey because it's more about the journey than it is about the destination. So that's what we have for you today. And I wanted to remind you that we're almost at the end of our special promotion to be part of our community. I don't really know when this episode will air, but you have until April 1st to get your $79.99 to get into our community, our Glam and Grind community, for $79.99 a month. And if you do that before April 1st, you are grandfathered in to always keep that $79.99 a month price. And then also after April 1st, it'll go up to $99.99. And in our community, we will have courses, special speakers, we'll have events, meetups, resources, tools, tips, tricks, all the things. And also just a great community of female entrepreneurs and mompreneurs who are living the same life that you're living. And so it's just a great place to connect with others that are in that phase of life for you. So I hope you guys liked today's episode. Please like it, subscribe, share, do all the things so that we can be part of your every week listening and that we get to see you next week. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a great night or day. Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of Glam and Grind.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.